And the voters, they get it. They've read it, they get it. And it's already come out. Every single channel is calling it election interference. Ready?
He details every step, she detailed every step of the attempt to overthrow the election because it's so close to the election.
They rigged the election. I didn't rig the election. They rigged the election. What they do is they rig the election and then they go around getting people and persecuting people and prosecuting people that did nothing wrong.
Are you tired of boring political debates that put you to sleep faster than C-SPAN marathons? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because there's a new showdown in town. Jimmy Kimmel versus Donald Trump, the battle that's turning late-night TV into must-see political commentary. Who needs stuffy debates when you've got punchlines and Twitter rants? Jimmy Kimmel's been at it again, folks. His late-night shows turned into a Trump roast fest, and boy, has he cranked up the heat. But this time, Kimmel's not just poking fun at the Donald, he's going after the whole Trump clan. Kimmel's latest target, none other than Melania Trump. He joked that her best campaign was finding the quickest escape route from the White House. Ouch, and he didn't stop there. Kimmel quipped that Melania treats the White House like an Airbnb. Talk about a First Lady burn. But Kimmel wasn't done. He set his sights on Laura Loomer, saying she's so far right she thinks the left is just a place to park your car. I mean, come on, that's pretty clever.
Close. All caps in America hit Truth Social hard last night. Trump is highly upset about the 165 pages of incriminating evidence the judge released yesterday. They disobeyed their own rule in favor of complete and total election interference. I did nothing wrong. They did. He details every step, she detailed every step of the attempt to overthrow the election because it's so close to the election. Raving and ranting about the media and immigrants and windmills. Again, he hates windmills. He complained in front of a bunch of Teamsters about how much he hates paying overtime.
As the jokes kept coming, they got sharper and more personal. Kimmel hit Trump where it hurts, his ego. He joked, Trump's so obsessed with ratings, he probably checks the Nielsen numbers for his colonoscopy. Can you imagine Trump squinting at those numbers? What makes Kimmel's roasts different from other late night hosts? Well, he's not just going after Trump's political gaffes. He's digging into the family dynamics, making his jokes feel more like a punch to the gut than a slap on the wrist. You could almost see the steam coming out of Trump's ears as Kimmel's jokes got more and more pointed, but the joke that really sent Trump over the edge.
And the voters, they get it. They've read it, they get it. And it's already come out. Every single channel is calling it election interference. Ready?
And failed to rig the election. He's a rignoramus is what he is.
They rigged the election. The election was rigged. I didn't rig it, they did.
He's actually right about some of that. He didn't rig the election. He tried to rig the election. The case is a scam. Trump is what, 78 years old? You think he knows he can double tap the shift button on his phone?
Kimmel suggested Melania was counting down the days until she could trade in her First Lady title for first divorce. Yikes! It's clear that Kimmel's not playing around anymore. His monologues have gone from light celebrity chit-chat to full-on political takedowns. And let's be honest, it's making for some pretty juicy TV. But Trump's reaction? Oh boy, that's a whole other can of worms.
For 60 days prior to an election, the Department of Injustice is supposed to do absolutely nothing that would taint or interfere with said election.
They rigged the election.
The old he who smelt it dealt it defense. I bet it's number two, I really do. And this is an interesting twist. Trump says it wasn't him who tried to overturn the election, even though they have him on tape doing just that. It was them. The case is a scam. Trump is what, 78 years old? You think he knows he can double tap the shift button on his phone?
You thought Trump could take a joke? Think again. What started as a harmless late-night comedy bit quickly turned into a full-blown presidential tantrum. But here's the kicker. Trump's reaction might just be funnier than Kimmel's jokes. At first, Trump tried to play it cool. He probably thought if he ignored Kimmel, the jokes would go away. But we all know Trump can't resist a good Twitter fight. Soon enough, his fingers were tapping away faster than a woodpecker on Red Bull. The tweets started rolling in, each one angrier than the last. It was like watching a toddler's meltdown in real time.
For 60 days prior to an election, the Department of Injustice is supposed to do absolutely nothing that would taint or interfere with said election.
They rigged the election.
The old he who smelt it dealt it defense.
They rigged the election. I didn't rig the election. They rigged the election. What they do is they rig the election and then they go around getting people and persecuting people and prosecuting people that did nothing wrong.
But with worse spelling, Trump's face probably matched his trademark orange tan as he furiously typed away on his phone. You could almost hear the tiny keyboard clicks echoing through the White House. Compared to his previous Twitter storms, this one was a Category 5 hurricane. Trump was tweeting so fast, you'd think he was trying to set a world record for most caps lock used in a single hour. It was a sight to behold, the leader of the free world reduced to a frantic tweeting machine because a late-night host made fun of his wife.
The teleprompter just went out. They rigged the election. I didn't rig the election. They rigged the election. What they do is they rig the election and then they go around getting people and persecuting people and prosecuting people that did nothing wrong.
He went on about crowd size and how Biden is to blame for his crowds not being big, and then his teleprompter went out. Eric and Don Jr. would know how to handle jokes, but I guess not.
But the real kicker came when Trump decided to bring out the big guns. In a tweet that probably made the founding fathers roll in their graves, he declared, "Kimmel's so-called comedy is a threat to our great nation. Time to look into FCC regulations on these fake late-night shows." Yeah, because nothing says land of the free like trying to censor comedians, right? Trump's threat to SX the FCC on Kimmel didn't exactly go over well with the public. Half the country was outraged, crying foul over freedom of speech. The other half cheered Trump on, apparently forgetting that pesky little thing called the First Amendment. It was like watching a tennis match, but instead of a ball, it was common sense being batted back and forth. As the dust settled on Trump's Twitter tirade, one thing was clear. This wasn't your average political spat. It was a full-on comedy war with the White House and late-night TV as the unlikely battlegrounds. But Kimmel, he was just warming up.
I control the weather. They would have made sure a house landed directly on you, you demented, and failed to rig the election. He's a rignoramus is what he is.
They rigged the election. The election was rigged. I didn't rig it. They did.
He's actually right about some of that. He didn't rig the election. He tried to rig the election.
The teleprompter just went out.
So, what have we learned from this comedy cage match? Turns out, jokes pack a bigger punch than boring old political speeches. Who knew? In a world where truth is harder to find than Trump's natural hair color, sometimes it takes a comedian to cut through the bull and serve up some real talk. And Kimmel's roasts aren't just good for a laugh. They're shaping how we see the big orange guy in the White House. And Trump's Twitter tantrums, they're just proving Kimmel's point. It's like watching a real-life comedy sketch, only the punchline might be our democracy. But hey, at least we're getting some laughs while the world goes bonkers, right? Between Kofefe and person, woman, man, camera, TV, we've got enough material to keep us chuckling all the way to the voting booth. So grab your popcorn, folks. This comedy show's far from over.